Start. All right.
Okay. So, welcome to our talk today, putting TYPO3 Flow on stage. And I'm going to do this talk together with my colleague, Thomas Hempel, who is the head of development at NetWork, an internet agency and internet service provider based in Hamburg. And my name is Klaus Bodenfeld, and I'm one of the co-founders of the company, and at work I'm the head of web development, and in particular in this project, which we are going to present today, I was doing part of the project management and mostly the stage of planning and designing this software which we like to present you today. So what I'm going to give you in my first part of this talk is to give you more like an insight about how we approach this project, about what we did at all, to give you an idea about what customer we did this project for. And after that, Thomas is going to show you the actual result of what we did. So, to start off, it was actually the very, very first project we did with Flow. So for us, it was kind of an adventure which we dared to do together with our customer, which is quite a nice thing because we paid for that, for going on an adventure. So who did this with us was the Schmidts-Tivoli and the Schmidt Theater. I don't know if you're familiar with this theater. Anybody heard about this? Yeah, some of you. Okay. These are two theaters based in Hamburg, on the red light district of Hamburg and on the Reeperbahn. These are not strip clubs, so I must disappoint you at this point. So these are theaters located in Hamburg. And to give you a little bit background about what kind of company we're dealing with, they have 220 employees currently and approximately 500,000 visitors per year. To give you a little perspective about what this means, The Lion King, the musical, which is also running in Hamburg, has around 800,000 visitors per year. So 500,000 is not bad. And actually, these theaters are, in the commercial sense, the most successful privately held theaters in the whole of Germany. So they are selling about 12, I think they're doing a revenue for ticket sales about 12 million euros a year. So I think it's a pretty interesting thing that you normally don't see a theater as like a commercial institution, but these people are very successful in doing what they're doing. So what we did in the past for this customer, and we've been working for this customer for a very, very long time. Actually, we started. It was one of the first customers we actually had, and we started in '97 working for this customer. And during this time, of course, we built up the website, which obviously we put a lot of effort into this project. The main part of this thing is, of course, the part where you can actually see what's on stage in these theaters. And of course, there's a ticket shop involved in this website, and yeah, it's running pretty well. I think for quite a number of years, more than half of the tickets sold are being sold online over this website. And additionally, doing a lot of work here into the website, I think it was, 1.5 years ago, we launched an app. We did an app for that, Theater 2, which also allows you to access the plays which taking place on the stages of the theaters. And there's this neat feature called Restkartenalarm, which allows you to receive push notification on your mobile whenever the theater feels like they have a special deal, like 2 for 1 or a reduced price or things like this. And this is also a neat feature which is running quite successfully for the theater. So why I showed you, I'm not going to talk about this, what we did already for these kind of things, because in recent times, we spent a lot of effort in putting things on stage, like putting things that will be visible for the users. And now it's getting a little bit embarrassing for ourselves because I'm going to give you some insights about what's behind the stage. And so, this is it. I think in just one view you can see it's not looking nice, but what you have to know at this stage is you're looking at the core software of the theater, which has been in usage since 1997, which manages all the events taking place in the theater. So the embarrassing part is that actually we did it. It was very long ago. We didn't know what we were doing, or the tools weren't that powerful at these days. So it was plain PHP with an, I think, Postgres database behind it. And the funny part is that this software survived so long. Even though the internet, the interface is, I think you can call it simple. It was still in usage up to a couple of months ago, and but of course the situation wasn't perfect, and mostly not only because of the fact that the usability is. I don't want to show you any more about this because it's too bad. It will hurt your eyes, and usability wasn't good. But it kind of did what it was intended to do, and this was to manage all the workflow which is involved in planning and planning for a news show which is going to be presented on the stage, and to hand it over to the sales people, to hand it over to the marketing people, to the press office, and all these departments. But the thing is that wasn't used by everyone in the company. And this led to this situation that island solutions were established within the company, and most of these solutions consisted out of Excel files lying around on some desktop computers that some departments used to actually organize all the data that they needed in a way that they thought would support their work the most. And of course, this kind of situation is pretty bad because you have a lot of work being done not once but twice or three times because no central database or no central workflow is established, and that's a bad thing. So the customer approached us at the phase where we saw, okay, with this nice website online, business is doing well, but we still have to improve our internal processes. So this database has to go and has to be replaced by a new one. And so how we approached this thing is we started from scratch. We didn't want to reuse anything about which was already there because it simply was crap. And most of all, we wanted to understand at this phase how the customer is working and how these workflows are established within the company. And normally you don't give this inside perspective into a customer's work because you're working for the outside, for what is on the stage, for the website and things like this. And it's a totally different story if you want to try to understand the company within and how is it working. So our challenge were two things. First of all, we have this technical challenge, like to establish a new software which actually is good, usable, and user-friendly, and has all the functions which were lacking in the old system. And then we have a kind of a social challenge, because we wanted to produce a software which actually is being used by everyone. So, and if you're working with like internal software, I don't know if you've maybe did an intranet project or things like this, these projects are not about creating a technical solution only. You have to do something so that the future users of the software actually are motivated to use this. And to approach these two challenges, what we did was kind of heavy involvement of the future users. So we actually met with everyone who's going to use the software in the future. So we scheduled dates with every department of the theaters. These have been around 5 or 6 departments, and we prepared this with a list of questions and we did interviews with them. And by this, we were able to understand the workflows involved, and we got a lot of information about how they used, if at all, the old software, or what things were lacking, and which they wished for the new software. And of course, this process also was meant to be as an involvement of the future users, because it's we hope that by asking the people what they want and what wishes they have, you have a much better chance that in the future the people will actually use it, the software which is going to be created, because they've been involved in the process. So to warm you up a little bit, I'm doing this final slide about my part, and to give you because I think it's always nice if you see these projects and you listen to somebody who's talking about this project, to give you some more insights about the things which maybe didn't went that well as you had planned. So I think this is the most important thing to learn about these things. And what we did is, what we learned at this point, and what was the most important thing is, it was a good idea to ask everyone about what they were wishing for, but of course you end up with a very, very long list of requirements, because if you ask a lot of people about what they want, they tell you a lot of things. And this leads to a very long list of requirements, and this does make, of course, the project much bigger, and bigger means bigger budget, and decisions about how, if a project is going to be funded or not, are much more difficult at this point. And by involving, another thing is by involving a lot of people and asking about their wishes, of course you have a lot of opinions in the project. And it's not, and this was a kind of a surprise for us, it's not that you sit together with them in a meeting and ask about their wishes and you don't see them afterwards. That this is not the case, because they want to see what's going on, and they want to stay a part in this process. And by trying to do a project with so many opinions, that's not easy, because you have, at one point you have to decide, okay, which features do we really need, and stuff like this, or which software base are we going to use. And by asking a lot of people, this project is not an easy one. So, and the third thing, most important thing we learned was, when you ask people about their wishes, they have a tendency to believe that they will get it. So whenever you ask somebody what he wants, you kind of you bring yourself in the position that you kind of have to communicate that you are asking, but this is not a guarantee that you will actually produce and program this feature, because it might be too difficult, or because only a few numbers of people actually want this feature. But still, it's very important, like, to not raise expectations and being disappointed when the software is being presented, that this personal features which you really, really like to have isn't in the software in the end. So, to sum it up at this point, an important decision in this project was to actually stop talking and start doing things. Because at some point you have to draw a line. Okay, this is the feature set we're going to implement to keep the project manageable, and we stop talking and discussing about which way how we do it. And well, of course you can call it an agile kind of concept of software development, of course, because you at one point you really have to start doing things. And what we did and what resulted in our work is Thomas going to show you now.
All right. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to show you what we actually have done in this project. I won't go too much into detail because it's a pretty large project, so you won't see any code. But I think that by the end you will have a pretty good understanding of what this project was about. So this doesn't work. Awesome. That is not what I expected to happen. This is what I expected to happen. So, yeah, this is actually the final result of the whole project. So, I'm done, thank you. No, no, this is the actual result. It's not important if you can read anything. It's not really yeah, necessary. But you can see it's different than what you saw before. And you can see we have an overview with calendars. With a calendar, you can see what is this week. We have different views for all the data. We can search now. We can filter the results and all that stuff. You can manage a lot of stuff, which I show you in a minute. So, just give you an overview over the overall project. So this is not complete. I just concentrate on the important things. So what do we need? Well, in this project, what we needed was, of course, the event plan database. I just call it this way from now on. So this is what you just saw. Then we have, of course, the website. So as Klaus said, the Tivoli is planning the whole schedule with this tool. So every event, every production, and every theater, they have about 10 locations, different locations. And they also have a gastronomical location. So everything is planned in this tool. What you saw on the website was the plan for what the customer or the visitor want to see. So what's playing today. So this has to go to the website in some way and should be displayed there. So, and of course they had the old data, which they don't want to lose. It's 15 years of data. You just don't throw that away. And yeah, that's the export to website. So these are the 4 things we had to implement for this project. I'm going through this now. Before that, actually, I want to give you a little overview about the domain model. So with what kind of data are we handling here, or dealing with here? And again, that's not complete, it's just the most important things. We have 3 things. That's, for one, the location. I told you they have 10 different locations, or 10 or 15 or whatever, doesn't matter. Oops. And I actually won't talk about locations anymore. It's just because we have to have this. We have productions and, of course, events. So production, anybody understands what the difference between a production and an event? Okay, so the production is that what normal people or outside people would call, yeah, that's what you see. For example, The Lion King or some musical or whatever has a production. So that's all that information like title, subtitle, informations, prices. And an event, it's actually the same as a production, but at a specific date and time. So, but we have to differentiate between this because, yeah, it makes sense to create events from a production because you don't want to type everything in every time you create a new event at a specific time. They have up to 5 events every day, so many things are played twice or 3 times a day, so of course you don't want to type in everything again. You see another box, prices. This is a little special, and I will talk about it in a minute. Pricing for productions or events are not as easy as it might seem at the first look at it. Just imagine that this theater, they have different prices for different times of a day, and maybe they have different prices for on Mondays and Tuesdays, and Wednesday is cheaper because there's family day or whatever. On weekends it's more expensive, and they even make a difference between the early afternoon and the night shows, for example. So we had to find a way so they can administrate the prices. It was, by the way, totally ridiculous how it was done before. They had some text input box with comma separated listed and stuff. That's totally, I never understand how they work with that. So, and an event has two very special properties, and that's the status. That's actually not really special, it's just a relation to the status, like it's an idea, or it's on sale, or it's cancelled, or whatever. But I come to that at the end a little. We use this for user privileges, so who is allowed to see what. That's depending on a state that they can create on their own. So yeah, I'll tell you in a minute. And we have conflicts, and that's actually a little special, but which we created during the development of the project. I come to this in a minute. So that's yeah. Okay, how we did it? First, the import. I'm not going to tell you anything about the import. I mean, it's a totally tedious thing to do. It's just, as I said, it's just 15 years of data we had to import into the project. It's a one-time thing, not interesting at all. So you're in luck, you don't have to listen to me about talking about this. The event plan database. So that's obviously the biggest part of the whole project. And we have a lot of features in there. And I'm going to talk about every single one of this now. Of course not. I will concentrate on these 4 things because I think they are technically the most interesting. And actually, conflicts and logging are technically more or less the same, but you will see this right now. So, data transfer. What I mean by data transfer. At the beginning, I told you that we have productions and events, and we create events from productions. So somehow we have to move the data from a production when I create a new event to this new event record, right? It's gone. Oh no. So I have a production, and at some point I have a create action of some sort. I press a button or whatever. And I have an event. So that's not very magical. You can imagine how this works. I just take the production, copy everything out, and paste it into the new event object. But we have this price thing. And that's, as I told you, the prices can be a very complex thing to deal with. So we have to bring this over. So how do we do this? Because we don't, in an actual event, we don't need every single price we might have in a production, right? It's totally useless there in data duplication. We don't need that. Conflict, I'll come to this. So we came up with this. Doesn't look too impressive, I know. But what you see here is a list of prices that created for, as you can see in the first columns, you have on which days is this price valid and between which times, and what prices do they actually have. So they can have up to 10 price categories, so they usually only use 5. So you can see on Wednesdays and Thursdays and Sundays between 1 p.m. and 8:30, the most expensive ticket is 33 euros. And on Saturdays in the evening, it's 20 euros more, so 53. So that's actually the editing interface. And we did this with price groups. So we have some sub-records. Each line is at least is another object, and they combine it into this matrix you just saw. They can, very nice interface. You can just click the link, and the new price group will be inserted on the fly, so no reloading, and they can do this all very easily and fast. And I think, and that's what we had as feedback, it's pretty obvious how to use it. So it's very easy, and you don't have to handle a lot of comma-separate lists and whatever. And we have it actually in a nice form in the database. So we can work with this. What we're doing is that when we create an event, and then we know the time when it's playing, we know the date, and then we can look up in this matrix and fetch the right price group. So the new event will automatically get the correct prices for the time when it's playing. And we do actually do this even when they change the time or the date. So they can override it if they want, but you don't have to. You don't have to worry about prices and events anymore. So they had to do this before. So maybe I should mention that. So very much easier than before for them. So it is what you see here is a form for an event. So it was on Tuesday at 8 p.m. And these are the prices we fetched from the matrix you saw before. What you also can see is these links here, wie Produktion, like in production. If it would be different from the production, you will get another link that says, just grab the value from the production and just insert it here. So you don't have to look it up. It's just in the background, it fetches the data and inserts it here. So that goes for every single input box we have in this forms, just little side note. Okay, conflicts in changelog. So on the first look at it, it might not seem to be related to each other, but technically it is. For this feature, we used a nice feature, it's called doctrine events, which is actually really powerful if you want to hook into the update and create process of objects. So, and conflicts is a little special because conflicts are an object that represents a conflict, obviously, and the conflict happens whenever two events overlap in the same location. So you know that from every calendar application or every calendar, but they needed this to plan efficiently, because if the system had to warn them, hey, you created an event where another event has already taken place, just you have to fix this. So we have to find these conflicts, and this is not an easy task, especially in this case, because an event is not only starting time and duration. No, they have a setup time where they put everything on stage. They have an entry time, and they have, of course, the event itself, and they have some dismantle time when they put everything back at the place. So we have actually the duration of an event is calculated from 4 different durations. Is something, and they only want to, of course, type in the starting point of the event where the customer is in the theater. So you can do this on the fly, of course. You can try to do it in the database directly or in the controller or whatever, but that's not really efficient. And if you imagine that they display a whole year or a whole month worth of data, you have to compare a few thousand events to each other. Well, you don't compare each other to each other, of course, but it still takes a lot of time. And and that's why we decided in the middle of the process that we need something that persists the state. And we do this at the same point where we do the changelog thing. So when an event was updated or created, check the conflicts that are on this day. So we don't have to do it in the controller when we print out things. Much more efficient and speeded up the whole thing quite a lot. All right. So on the pre-update and persist, there are different events in Doctrine that are provided by Doctrine. We, for one, calculate absolute times. This is what I just said. We calculate the times when the event actually starts for the internal process. So the starting time minus the setup time minus the entry time and plus the dismantle time, that's the whole event. And we stored it separately to make more efficient requests or queries on the database. We do this before we update the event, because it has to be persistent, obviously, so we have to do it before. When this is done, we check for the conflict, like I explained before. And when everything was updated and persisted, we write a log file. So that's not very fancy stuff. It's just well, actually, it kind of is, because we take the persistence manager and let him figure out what changed in this record, and we store this in the database. So we have a real change log from every update without doing anything, actually. So that's pretty nice. Okay, just a small examples in screenshots. So that's today. We have 2 events for today in 2 different locations, no problem. But now I create a new one that is also today at 9 p.m. 7 p.m., sorry. When we saved it, he shows the newly created event, of course, and he shows me this conflict. So this conflict with the event, Die Königs vom Kiez, do something. And there's no auto-fixing or anything, because we can't do this. It's just, we can't decide what is right and what is wrong in this place. And of course, we have in the calendar view, both events will be marked in a very striking red, so you just see it, you can't overlook it. And then someone has to fix it. Another interesting part is, as I said before, we have the event plan also on the website. So this is an XBase extension, which we also rewrote completely. But we have to bring the data from the Flow from the event database to the website. So how do we do it? So as I said, we have event plan database and the XBase. I just said XBase controller is a special import controller in the XBase extension. And they both hooked up to their respective databases, and website and the event plan database. And what we do now is we have a command line controller on the event plan database side, which looks up in the database. There's a flag for each event that said it's synced or not. We also update this when an event is updated. We set it to, no, it's not synced, do it next time. And we just compress it into JSON and send it to the import controller on the website. This thing just unpacks it, writes it to the database, and then creates a result JSON and sends this back actually as a result of the HTTP request to the event database. So why are we doing this? The syncing solution we had before was, well, I don't know if I even want to talk about it, but Klaus said the old system was a Postgres database, so the TYPO3 was MySQL, so we somehow had to move everything from Postgres over several servers to the website, and yeah, actually it was just a shell script that dumped Postgres and converted it to MySQL and just dumped it back into the database. That was not a really good thing to do, and it took a while because it was a complete dump of everything every time. So that's, yeah, you can imagine not really good to work with. Now what we're doing is, I said, every event has a sync flag. Is it synced or not? If it's not, the next time the export runs, it just grabs the next 50 or whatever you define, unsynced events, and pushes that to the server. And he updates his existing records or creates new ones or deletes stuff or whatever and sends the result back. And in the result, actually, it tells the event database what happened. So when this result comes back, the export checks, okay, this event was updated, this was created, and writes the sync flag. So we can on a very low level, we can just sync one event. If only one was changed, this is really, really fast because we only sent the necessary data for this one event that have changed. And therefore, we can do this very, very often. We can do this every minute if we want. So when they change anything in the event database, it almost instantly moves to the server. So that's really, really powerful, and they use this a lot. Or they will, well, they used it a lot before, but now they are really happy that it actually works. So, okay, so this is what it looks like. Awesome. Oh no. Okay. Yeah, that were the 4 things I want to explain, which I think are very interesting from a technical point. There are much more in it. If you can ask me, of course, if you want to know more. But now I want to just make a conclusion about the whole project. And we decided at a very early point to use Flow. And I was often asked the last day if I think it was the right decision. And yeah, obviously when you have to decide if something was the right decision, you often make pro and con lists. So here are the pros. Flow is incredibly flexible. There's not much you can do with it. It's a really, really, really great framework. And yeah, it's flexible. I can't say any more than this. And it has structure. And that is, for me personally, one of the most important features of Flow, or XBase if you want, which is, backport. If you, for one time, understand a Flow project, you understand every other Flow project. You have a really clear structure where everything is, so you can just, if you have a developer who never saw this project but knows how Flow works, you can just put him in charge for the project and he will understand it. I don't know who wrote PI base extensions back in the days. It's a whole different story right there. So in the end, it's all about getting into the flow. And yes, this pun was intended. It's really all about these 2 points for me. There's no technical, you can all do this with any other framework, of course, but these 2 things, that was important for me. So no technical pros, but more general idea of the whole thing. So, you might ask, cons, now he said it's all great and all awesome. What can there be that is not so good? It's impossible, right? Well, no. Security is really a beast, as I said. We had one problem, well, not problem, we had the request that the people who are working with this product shouldn't be allowed to see anything. So we have different roles. We have administrators, we have editors for ideas, we have editors for just for gastronomical things, and this is not supported out of the box. You can have roles, but they work on a different level. You can say, okay, this user is not allowed to create stuff. Yeah, but what if I want him to be able to create productions but no events, or the other way around? This is not built in. You have to do this on your own. So that's possible, and we did it, but you have to be aware of the fact that this is not out of the box feature. At least not, depends on what you want to do, of course. But other than that, it's awesome. So, conclusion, was it the right decision? Of course. Why wouldn't be here then? So, it's all said. Yes, it was right. If you have a project and you want, which is an application, Use Flow. That's all I can say. So, and that's it from my part. Thank you for being here. Anybody has a question, then this is the time to ask.
Yeah, just a small question.
Yeah.
The backend with different field groups, if it was done manually or you get the API, form API in the backend of Flow?
Well, there is no backend. It's an application.
When you edit events, for me, it's like
No, that's these are fluid templates.
okay.
And yeah, with jQuery for interaction, but yeah, it's done on yeah, you have to do it on your own because yeah, of course.
So you have no object form field at all. About I was speaking about auto validation after mathematical validation, submitting some rows when you processing forms.
Of course, yeah. Validation. You have this in Fluid and in your controller, and you can do it with jQuery.
Okay.
So that is possible, but there is no such thing like the TCA where you configure. Okay, I have these fields and just render it this way. So there's nothing like this. You have to do it on your own, but it's absolutely possible. Of course, yeah. You have all the freedom you want. If you want to put a lot of effort into it, you can build very cool stuff.
Too much effort. I would like to
Yeah, I understand, but yeah, in the end, it's a PHP framework which offers also a templating engine for HTML. So it's not intended to be a form validation thing.
But the validation in Flow works the same as in XBase.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've done validation in the model of XBase, but it works exactly the same.
Okay.
And it's quite easy to do. It's
yeah. In the model, you define watch type and can evaluate, and then the system actually will check that, and you get a little box on top with errors if there are any.
So there is some helpers.
Excuse me?
There is some helpers already here. So some part is already realized, and some part you need to personalize.
Yeah. One else? All right, then, yeah. Oh.
How long does a project run? From the beginning, the interviews, and the actual implementation?
You can answer that better than me.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I think you have to.
The embarrassing answer is we started with the first kickoff meetings in 2009. And this was what I meant with asking a lot of people about their wishes. So it actually, there were some pauses in the project which happened out of totally different reasons, but from first idea to this result, the process went that long, but the actual programming, and this is important news, we took about
Half a year,
which was very fast. So in like my last words in terms of management decisions, and this kind of project helped us to create a software of a quality which we have never achieved before. So the decision for us in terms of business decision was like perfect. And by far this won't be our last flow project that we're doing. So whenever you have this kind of scale project, consider it.
All right. Thank you.